Hello to everyone joining us virtually here at EDUCAUSE. Just so you're aware, this session will be streamed with the ability to ask live questions. So please feel free to talk to us in chat. My name is Roby Monroe. I lead the Southern Higher Education business here for NetApp. And today we're going to be talking to Dan Lepore. Welcome, Dan. Dan joins us from the Virginia Community College System, also known as the VCCS, and he's going to be sharing some best practices on an exciting new infrastructure as a service project. Dan, can you give us a quick introduction to who you are and the size and the scope of the VCCS?
Sure. Hey, thanks, Roby, and thanks for the opportunity for us to share some of our story. So in my role at the VCCS, I'm the director of what we call Enterprise Operations Services, which is our fancy way of saying infrastructure. So I oversee the infrastructure team for the system office and the infrastructure that reaches out to our member colleges across the state. So VCCS is a collection of a group of 23 community colleges across the entire state of Virginia. We're housed in about 41 or 42 locations across that state. We employ just about 14,000 faculty and staff members, and on an annual basis, we educate just north of 200,000 students. So we're a fairly large enterprise across the state of Virginia.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for that overview. Can you give us, we're here to talk about your infrastructure as a service project. Can you give us a view of what that is and, and how you've been working on it and what that project looks like?
Sure. I'll give you a little overview. It's a project we've been working on for a little while now. Back in 2014, just as I was about to come into the VCCS, we had made the move from an on-premise data center into a co-location facility, a tier 4 co-location facility. Kind of got us out of the business of having to manage the facilities of our data center. And it was a really big improvement for us as an organization. Well, we started looking at that data center and said, well, how can we maximize the value that we've put into this co-location space? And recognizing that our colleges run small server rooms and data centers, that they must be going through the same operational pain that we're going through, trying to keep the lights on, right, and dealing with air conditioners, dealing with all the facility issues that keep us up at night, right, in the IT world. Mm-hmm. So we started working down the path to look at a true infrastructure as a service, a private cloud service that we could offer out to our colleges so they could provision servers and storage and automatically get the benefits of this tier 4 data center that we have within the environment, within the enterprise. So we looked at that as an opportunity to save the college some headache, certainly some operational time, and to help offset and pull off some of the costs that they incur to manage those facilities, plus the hardware and storage that are out at all the campuses. So a way to stop duplicating efforts across a very large enterprise. So we deployed the service. We partnered with some of our first initial colleges to do a proof of concept, and we started rolling that out, and we quickly realized the benefits across the system, which we'll share a little bit more about that in a minute. But today, the platform is hosting about 450 servers for the enterprise. We're housing about 150 terabytes worth of storage. We're using up about 3.5 terabytes of memory within the system. So it's pretty significant, and we were able to consolidate that cost into this shared infrastructure that we put in place for the colleges, and really kind of eliminate the colleges from having to invest individually in the cost and in the management and in support of those platforms enterprise-wide.
That's great, Dan. And it sounds like by taking that burden off of the different community colleges, that you're able to let them focus on their day-to-day tasks versus having to worry about infrastructure. And that sounds like a really, really exciting thing for them. What are the benefits that you hope to realize when you're centralizing their infrastructure and implementing this private infrastructure as a service cloud?
Yeah, so let me just first clarify one thing. We don't, in the VCCS, we don't work to centralize services. We look to share services. So we have programs that are shared IT services that we work with between our governance process and our partner and member colleges to collaborate on the development, maintenance, and really the long-term growth of these services and platforms. So we try to partner with our colleges. Just a nomenclature differentiator with us. It's really about sharing, what we have, because at the end of the day, we're all on the same team. We all have the same mission to educate our students. So we try to work collaboratively together.
That's a good distinction, because when I say centralized, it does sound like that you're pulling all that in and owning it, but really what you're doing is you're providing them a service that they're helping define. So that's great.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. So there's really 4 areas where we hope to really add value into the organization with this service. Number 1 is to lower risk, lower operational risk. So you imagine the college that has their college website hosted in their server room. Imagine the server room is a small space within a building that may or may not have a generator, susceptible to power outage, susceptible to a wide variety of things that could occur to cause an outage. So we lower risk by leveraging the tier 4 data center and that co-location space that we already have. And all of a sudden, that web server is backed by 14 generators, a megawatt of power, a staff people that are, making sure that the environment is right, the temperature is right, and so that risk for the college goes away. So that's number 1 is to lower risk. Number 2 is to lower operational cost. Some colleges, they start to face aging hardware. So they look at, we need to make a significant investment to revitalize our IT infrastructure from the server and storage perspective. Well, guess what? As that equipment ages out and those services move into our infrastructure as a service platform, they don't have to reinvest in that hardware for that same purpose. So, there's a cost savings there. Improving our time to execute is another one. So imagine you're out at a college saying, hey, we've got this new system we want to deploy. Okay, where are we going to put it? Okay, what server infrastructure? Do we have storage and space for this? Well, what we do with this shared platform is that headache goes away from the college. It becomes my headache to make sure that we have the right capacities for the environment to meet their needs. But from a college perspective, they can look at the platform as almost unlimited server and storage capacity to meet the needs that they have on their campus, right? So we've got centralized and shared applications for the environment, right? So we do our PeopleSoft systems. We have some big major ERP systems that are out there that we already host in our data centers. But colleges still have unique needs. So there are needs for applications. There are needs for things that are specific to the college that this platform is perfectly suited for its use. And then I think the last thing is really just to shore up the operational efficiency of the IT within the college and even within the system as a whole, right? We're all learning to use this platform. It's available to us all. So just gives us some additional operational efficiency, because as a system, we're all now managing, supporting it, and we're part of the growth of the system. So it just broadens the scope of how we can use the system and how we can support it.
That's great. And with that number of community colleges, it just seems like streamlining this process for them gives you more buying power with your partners, and also gives a common infrastructure that they all can provide. So that's awesome. As you went through this and you were looking at the different private cloud providers, what was the criteria that you looked at that was the most important for you?
So there were several criteria, but I'm going to name a top few that were pretty important for us. Number 1 was performance and reliability. We need a platform that's going to be rock solid, that's going to be able to support every workload that the college throws at it, whether that's a database server out there running a CRM, or whether that's a file server just hosting files, to whatever workload may come our way, web servers, anything. So number 1, it has to perform and it has to be reliable. Once we stand up a service that's supporting the infrastructure for all 23 colleges, man, this thing can't go down, right? It's got to run on an ongoing basis. So something they have to feel comfortable in. Number two was multi-tenancy. So again, as I mentioned, we're a shared infrastructure, not a centralized infrastructure. What that means in practice is that colleges still have the ability to provision, servers and storage at their will, right? So the multi-tenancy gives us the ability to carve out infrastructure components that colleges can self-manage, right? They can manage their own servers, they can deploy their own servers. We took it a step further into the network side, so we virtualized our firewalls that support this platform so they can manage their own firewall rules. That gives us the ability to give back to the college this infrastructure that it continues to be theirs to manage. Another big criteria for us is partnership. And, just about everybody can sell a widget out here. Lots of technology companies that are selling equipment. What we look for is a partner that understands our mission, understands the dynamic of our environment, and works to support that mission as a whole, right? And what I mean by that is partners that, when they're interacting with our member colleges, they can continue to share our mission, continue to share the value of our mission out to the colleges to kind of help continue to build support for our platform and to help people realize the value of it. It's a big change, right? It takes more than us to be able to communicate that out. And I think that was another big criteria. I think those were the top three. And, certainly, from lots of technical challenges. One other I'll mention that I think was really important to us and probably one of the big differentiators in our decision-making process was compatibility with existing infrastructure in place at the VCCS. So we try not to deploy a piece of technology to be a single use case, right? We look for a technology that can support multiple use cases, and to do that, needs to be compatible with infrastructure we already have on the ground, right? We make an investment in infrastructure, it's got a life cycle. What else can we work with it together to serve multiple use cases? So from our perspective, the ability to interact natively and directly with NetApp storage, move snapshots between storage and our infrastructure as a service platform natively was a big differentiator for us, because then the platform isn't solely for college infrastructure use. We can use it in the enterprise side to house some of our DR infrastructure and even some of our production infrastructure as we start to roll out of some of our legacy hardware.
That's great. That's great. And I'll tell you, you're talking about partnership. I appreciate the partnership that you at the VCCS have with us. So I just always feel like we're really looking out for each other. So when you're looking through this project, there's a lot of different aspects when you're trying to do a shared service the way you are for the community colleges. What kind of automation, orchestration, and chargeback? I think those are kind of the three key pieces whenever you're doing anything that is as a service. What do you use for those three aspects of the as a service offering?
That's a great question, and really one of the foundation pieces for the overall platform. Well, we stood on VMware's vRealize automation platform to be able to provide self-service portals out to the colleges. That was number one, right? We had the multi-tenancy environment and self-service portals so the colleges can continue to provision at will. They don't open a ticket and wait for the operations team or the enterprise team to create a server. They do it, right? So the self-service portal, and then the automation piece, our ability to create standard blueprints that meets our system-wide requirements for our standards, right? So we have a standard operating system, we have standard configuration. So between the vRealize automation piece and the vRealize orchestrator, we were able to deploy blueprints of systems that colleges can go in. They go into the portal, they find the server type that they're looking for, they click on it, and within seconds to minutes, out comes the server that they're looking for. Now, we're starting to take this a step further. We're starting to dabble in with Ansible. And using Ansible, we're looking at deploying application sets rather than just particular servers, right? And handing out servers that maybe have some pre-configuration, but application sets that get a little more complicated. Maybe they have multiple servers, or they have a database component that needs to be pre-configured. Maybe the automation needs to reach in and understand which college is provisioning so it gets the right IP address, or some other specific Active Directory or other configuration items that need to go onto that server to be an effective piece of equipment for the college. So our first use case right now that we've been dabbling in is a deployment of a SIM server. It's really a suite of servers and a search engine to kind of query that SIM, making that available to colleges who have a need for that type of service. And then we're going to continue to move that forward. And I see this as a driver for our enterprise so that we can start to provision PeopleSoft systems and applications in more of a dynamic fashion. So maybe a VCCS developer needs hey, I want a new PeopleSoft web server. They can reach into the catalog and deploy that on this platform without really even having to open up a ticket with the enterprise side. So I see that coming down the road for us, but we're walking towards that now.
So when I think of the size and the scope of the VCCS and the fact that you're sharing one platform across that number of customers, what I really think that if I were one of your customers, what I would ask is, with those systems, how do you ensure performance across all those customers, and how do you ensure that a rogue workload doesn't negatively impact one customer over another?
Yeah, so a couple of things there. One is our multi-tenant environment was foundation to that, so we could segregate workloads based on colleges, right? So then we have assurances that workloads aren't going to cross boundaries and networking aren't going to cross boundaries. And the other differentiator, when we're selecting the NetApp and the HCI platform, is the guaranteed service, right? So you've got horsepower behind it in the flash storage that's going to be able to support the workload. You've got guaranteed performance within the platform to guarantee that performance is going to be there for the workload. And then you've got a multi-tenant environment, so you've got boundaries around where that workload's going to live and what systems it can interact with. So I think those were the three areas where we really focused to address that, knowing that would be a concern of mine if I'm a college asking for this service. So we want to make sure that was available to them as well.
Great. So I have one more quick question, and then we'll close. So how is the pandemic affecting demand for infrastructure as a service?
Great question. I'm not sure our demand has changed much. I think what it's done is taken off some stress from the local IT departments, right? They don't have to worry about getting on campus to manage as many servers as before. You're not so worried about, hey, I'm not checking in the data centers because this equipment sits in a tier 4 data center already. And I also think it's keeping business as usual. So we can continue to provision servers and storage remotely, right? If you're a college, you're able to go into the portal and provision it. So we can keep business as usual. So I think it's got more of a stress reliever than an increase in demand. And having that capacity available to the college makes sure that we as an organization remain flexible to our needs should something new arise because of the pandemic.
That's great. And so with that, I'm going to close this out. Dan, once again, I really thank you and the VCCS for the partnership that you have with us. Thank you to everybody at EDUCAUSE for joining us virtually. Please feel free to reach out to Dan or I directly if you have any questions on this solution, and we really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Roby.